Orb presents Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
We're back, baby.
Yeah. Not just after the delay of waiting for this movie, but also waiting for the strike to end.
Yeah. Jackson and Doc considered it struck work, so we acquiesced to their wishes. But we've had it. We've watched it. I've watched it twice straight, once with the commentary. We're here to talk about Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart.
Yeah. The DVD special that was released this summer here in 2023, tying up the nearly 20-year run of this show.
Yes. And does it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it does. This is a banger. This rules.
It fucking rules. It made me messed up, watching it. Not only because it has a lot of heart, heartstring pulling moments.
Yeah.
But just my boys did it.
Yep.
They did it. This is a satisfying end. Very surprised they pulled this out the way they did. They're very proud of this. They should be very proud of it.
Yeah.
I like it more than I like Venture Brothers season 7. Outside of the opening trilogy.
Right.
Yeah, they did a great job.
They really did. Yeah.
Beautiful
man.
voice.
I'm so happy to be able to talk about it.
Me too.
And like listening to the commentary and all of that, like hearing them reminisce, just this culmination, Yeah.
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
It feels great.
Yeah.
There. High recommendation.
Yes.
This picks up right away.
Yes.
After this, 3 days after the events of the very not very good episode, the Saffrax Protocol.
Right.
I did a season. I rewatched the series with Liv on the way up to the movie, so I watched the whole series with her since we did the show.
Okay.
And generally same things I thought when we did the podcast were true. Real weird that it ends on that Monarch stuff.
I know, right?
The Saffrax Protocol doesn't pay off here. I don't know when they talk about their plans for season 8. Doesn't seem like they had a lot of things they were planning to do with Monarch. No, they keep talking about other people. But we sure did spend 20 or 60% of that episode with that guild ritual.
Yeah, we did.
Right after that, which doesn't really matter, but what does matter is Hank is on the run.
Right.
And Ventek is in trouble. That is new to this, but it's great.
Yeah.
So that plot's good.
The Monarch is unable to arch Rusty until these DNA test results are back, oh, is he family? And because of this, he impulsively joins this rival antagonist organization called Arch that is led by the mysterious Mantilla, who also happens to be his ex-girlfriend, Debbie.
Yes. Named after a Spanish gauzy scarf. Adult Swim renewed the Venture Brothers for an 8th season in 2018 and then canceled in 2020.
Right.
They're right in the middle of pre-production. They had several scripts written and turned in, several in the pipeline.
Yeah.
There.
Yep.
They had a whole season 8 planned. So they had to scrap everything and figure out what they could, put into this.
It was even worse than that. They had to scrap everything, thinking, okay, well, we're just never going to get a chance. Then they got approved for this movie, and it's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, what can we use for this?
Right.
And they had to throw out a lot of their stuff. They packed what they could of season 8 into this. The season 8, as it was, we get little tantalizing hints as to what that would have been. Hank would have been on the road the whole time. The plot with Debbie and Arch would have just been several episodes long, like a little miniature arc. There would have been a lot of other little subplots. I love Colonel Gentleman's dog show with Billy, like a John Wick, finding Mishka dead, and then going on to the dog show circuit. I would have fucking killed to see that. Also, they would have dealt with the old guild sovereign, Force Majeure, showing up, who their dream voice actor was Matt Berry for that, who was a personal favorite. I went as a Matt Berry character for Halloween this year. Nice. I love Matt Berry.
Jeremy texted me or messaged me on Discord saying did you have Force Majeure pinned as a Magneto?
Yeah.
It was a real surprise.
It makes sense for them to do a Magneto.
Yeah.
They didn't do one. There's lots of fun, Easter egg shit in this.
Yeah.
With that. But I would have loved that. As is, we just see force majeure in flashback, but no voice lines.
Right.
Sad.
The movie was released to positive reception. We're not the only people who love this.
Yep.
And it's really regretful. I imagine this was a tough decision for them, but when the WGA strike started right before Comic-Con, they had to pull their Comic-Con panel.
Yes.
It was a screening, and it was going to be like a big victory lap thing, right? Like, hey, just you were here for the end of Venture Brothers, and that didn't get to happen. But solidarity is good, even if it stings in the moment.
Yeah, would have been incredible.
Yeah.
The DVD does not have deleted scenes. It has 2 commentaries, and one of which is a commentary on the movie, one of which is just them answering questions, fan questions, and a special in the form of this Q&A called Hodgman and Friends that is bewilderingly taking the form of a public access show you'd watch in the back of a taxi. Real New York inside baseball stuff. Yeah. We don't have those here. Hodgman is interviewing the boys and asking them fan questions. During that, it is okay. The slow arc of me realizing I don't like John Hodgman has been really tough on me because he's in everything.
That's not been a slow arc. That's been the case since I've known you.
Well, but just coming to terms with it being, because I always want to be like, oh, he just doesn't quite work for me. I just kind of don't like him. I realize I just straight up don't like him.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about his steez that I just don't like.
Yeah.
So this is not particularly appealing to me as a watch. It's fun watching the boys.
Yeah.
When I watched it, I was like, oh, Doc looks sick. I hadn't seen Doc in a while. There's a reason for that, which we had no idea. I had no idea. I don't want to speak for anybody else.
No, I
haven't been following what these guys have been doing, generally in this, and I haven't been on Twitter as much. And also, for obvious reasons, he didn't just like go and crow about it on Twitter.
No. He had an accident. When I was listening to the commentary and I heard him, talk about like saying like, "Oh, I'm a paraplegic," and I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" One of the more devastating things that can happen to a person. He was in an accident that left him paralyzed from the chest down. And was unable to walk. He's recovered mobility because the human body is a fucking miracle factory.
Yes. He's always, and he talks about it in the commentary. He's like, you're always a paraplegic. I'm just what's called a walker.
Yeah.
Now he's not being funny about it. He's like, if you see me and I say this, I'm not joking.
Right.
He has to lay that out because it just seems, he doesn't look at it. I didn't realize that you are still a paraplegic if you start walking again. Like, it's on my part.
Yeah.
Just fascinating and tragic and scary shit.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's in the second commentary, but just over the course of the entire, covering all of the materials, like hearing about his experiences in the hospital and working in support groups, just like him very earnestly saying, if you ride a motorcycle, rethink that. Because fully 60% of the people who came in and then very shortly died were motorcycle people who the first thing that they thought after their accident was, is my bike okay?
Bleak.
Yeah.
Super, super bleak.
Yeah. Man, that is really rough, and we wish him all the best. Good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. Just heartbreaking stuff. Heartbreaking in a more sweet way, hearing them talk about their working relationship and stuff in these specials, on these commentaries. One of the great partnerships of our time in terms of what it made. They're not bitter about it. Like, they don't like being part of this corporate thing, but they are very upfront about like, we don't own this. We'd love to make more, but we don't own it. We need jobs, kind of like, not in a pathetic way. Them joking about it, but it's it's great to hear. Their relationship is a very special thing.
Yeah. And just them starting this show and running it over the course of time that they did. And, when somebody says like, oh, they could never make this today, oftentimes it's like in a Blazing Saddles, you couldn't make that today, like Crank kind of way. Like them just recognizing and then verbalizing what a huge opportunity they had, and the fact that opportunity only existed for like a split second for them to get in the door and make this incredibly unlikely thing, and have the patience that they had from above to let them do this. Right. Yeah.
Yep. Miracle times.
Yeah.
That we get to live in these times where this happened.
Yeah.
Beautiful boys. Let's get into it.
Let's do. So we open up. It's been 3 days, and Brock and the OSI descend down into an alley. The UN is in the background. So the final episode it has where the first episode took place in its first shot, right? It is this pre-dawn raid on this location of a ping from Hank's phone. It's been 3 days, and Rusty not so much concerned about where Hank is. We're going to find out. This is just a thing Hank does. He runs away, but he's more interested like, oh, why does it always have to be a pre-dawn raid? Right.
Great question.
Very much so.
Dean is upset at him.
Yes.
Why don't you care? They pull this dumpster aside and they see an unhoused man wearing Hank's jacket. They think it's Hank at first.
Yeah.
There.
And Rusty very dismissively, what would Hank be doing in Queens anyway?
New York humor. I wish I could strike it from the earth.
Yeah.
I just, you have to realize this makes no sense to anybody else.
Yeah.
I understand it's a very populous city, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Hank, or goes through the recent messages.
Brock goes through
Hank's phone.
Yeah.
And it's Serena asking if he's okay. Sadly, they couldn't get Serena in.
Nope.
There are a lot of things they had to cut just because it's an hour and a half movie that cuts up a full thing.
Serena would have been all over the 8th season because they love Kristen Milotti.
Yeah, well, and that's what the conflict's about. They have to do it with her in absence, which is sad.
Yeah.
A big explosion happens and draws the team away while they're down there. We go up to the Ventec boardroom where Rusty protests giving Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch a cheek swab. She's trying to confirm the DNA test for the Monarch. He does the coming on to her meow thing, hoping that she can find some magic Rusty dust in her husband.
It's like, oh, you've wanted me forever, and you're just hoping to find a little bit of me in that loser you're married to.
Yeah. Keep it pinning all that stuff.
Yes.
It's great. There's a lot of him in the loser she's married to. With a Monarch drone watching outside the window. Yeah. Dean barges in and interrupts, and this allows Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch to take Rusty's coffee cup for DNA.
Yeah, it's very subtle. You don't notice it until he says, wait, didn't I have a coffee? After she leaves. Dean is real distraught. Like, hey, the OSI is calling off the search, just the trail's cold. Also, he left on his own recognizance. Like, it was his own volition. He's not missing. Yeah.
And Rusty's like, I'm not worried about this because it's Hank. Hank's Hank. He always does stuff like this.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to be dead in a ditch.
One time he ran off to the North Pole because Santa didn't give him a go-kart. He goes, wait, actually he was dead in a ditch that time. And Rusty says, hey, just return to your life, go back to school. It's costing me a fortune. And then Billy barges in, and says like, hey, we have this huge problem. We need you down in the lab. And then we go outside to Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch leaving for my favorite visual joke in the movie. I love them calling this out in the commentary. They're like, they're so unsure that this was going to work as a thing. It's just it's a very funny gag. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch spots the Monarch across the way. A bus passes and he's gone, like happens in movies. But she waits for the bus to do the roundabout, and he's clinging to the side of it.
To the side that's revealed as it turns.
Yeah, it's very good. He just comes on and goes, hi, honey.
Just taking that cliche of the person disappearing when the bus goes by. That is so fucking ingenious.
It's a very good visual joke. This whole thing is a slapper. Like, the jokes in this are very funny.
Oh, yeah.
In general. Again, I think funnier than season 7.
Oh, yeah.
On the whole. And it's all up from here.
Yeah.
Like, you're in good hands.
And 21 is over trying to fish the drone out of a tree nearby. It's stuck, right? Yeah. So they get in the limo, and the Monarch is whining and saying like, hey, you just made me a level 10 and now I have to, sit here with my dick in my hand. I can't arch venture. What's the deal? I'm tired of waiting.
Yep. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch gets an emergency call, has to go and has to drop them off. Out of the limo. Monarch says, unbelievable. He's going to have to ride the transit home.
Yeah.
Down in the lab, Billy and Pete are showing Rusty a problem. They're making the helper. It's a smart speaker Alexa kind of thing.
Yeah.
The using Helper's head. They've licensed Helper. One of the plots they talked about doing in the commentary was finding out that they've been cutting out Helper bits from the old Rusty Adventure cartoons, and he's huge in Japan. And they've been getting all these checks for like the Helper anime and stuff.
Yeah. Which that's where the money's coming from.
Yes. Killer. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
But this idea of like a helper, it's such a good name for an Alexa thing too. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
It's playing a mix of Jacket And they're like, well, there's a problem. They say, they turn up the volume, and when they do, it starts levitating.
Yep. And it's like, hey, you put superconductors in the speakers, and now this happens. And Billy's like, hey, we need to delay the launch. And Rusty's like, doesn't understand. This is a feature. Like, oh my God, we made the first hovering personal assistant, right?
Yeah. And Rusty, when Rusty tells it to stop, it falls down on Rusty's foot. And they say that could have been a baby's head there. But then there's worse news. There, where the pirate captain comes in and says, listen, the upgrades that you had means these cost more to manufacture than we're going to sell them for.
Yeah. And Pete says, you basically Blue Monday'd it, which is the fucking deepest cut.
It's exceedingly deep and very, very Doc Hammer line.
Yeah.
There.
For people who were unaware, the New Order single for Blue Monday was distributed in a sleeve jacket that was made to look like a floppy disk, but for all the designs and then the materials that were put into it, it had to be sold at a loss.
Yes.
Yeah. So
loss leader.
They lost money on every one of them they sold.
Yeah. Pirate Captain says, you should consider filing for bankruptcy. And Rusty goes, we're not doing that. We're not giving up. Yeah. One day, you change the marketing, figure out how not to crush babies, and raise the price.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. And Helper is upset. Hey, the Helper pods are going to replace him, right? Rusty's like, oh, it's an homage. Yeah.
It's a classic. Down in the train station, they spot a supervillain. Somebody dressed as a villain, and 21's like, oh, cool, a supervillain. Let's go talk to her.
She's flying colors.
Yeah. And Dr. the Monarch is making fun of him for that.
Yeah.
We go and he kind of talks over them, does the dialogue of them being pathetic when she gives 21 a card.
Yes.
And she turns around and Monarch recognizes her. This is Debbie, one of his exes.
Yeah. Then everybody on the platform kind of walks behind a pillar. The lights glow out. The tracks glow red, and then a bunch of henchmen in Cobra henchman suits step out. Yeah, and then a hover like
AIM,
Yeah. And then a hover train or a hover tank pulls up, and they all get aboard, and Debbie turns around and says, "Call me."
Yeah, call me. And then it just bursts through the ceiling. The train goes invisible, goes through the thing, and the Monarch explains, Debbie is his ex.
Yeah.
But they're intrigued. Like, what is this arch?
Yeah. Like, wait a minute. The guild doesn't have that tech. The guild has a boxing glove on the end of a spring.
Yes. 21, mentions Arch. She's with Arch. And, he's not going to call because he's not going to go after his ex.
Right.
Mantilla here. We're going to fight. This is going to change.
Yeah.
Dr. Mrs. the Monarch shows the Council of 13 a video of the attack that happened. This is the one from the intro during the Hank raid. Red Mantle and Dragoon complain. He's like, is every new show going to be about superheroes? And so he's like, tell me about it. Do I have to watch fake X-Men on the moon to learn about these movies?
The Inhumans? It's like a job.
Yeah. Fake X-Men on the moon. This is an unlicensed arching, and it's way bigger league than anything they do.
Right.
And it turns out they're by Brick Frog, whose powers include holding a brick and shouting his name. And everybody loves Brick Frog.
Yep.
I love this. Everyone's like, oh, that fellow. Brick Frog.
Brick Frog. Yeah. Just in Brick Frog is, this little Joe character who happens to be kind of like he's like a ham and egger. Yeah. Faces do. Yeah.
They talk about how they came up with a very long backstory for Brick Frog as well. It's very funny. His father was a bricklayer and a rival bricklayer and stuff. It's very good.
Yeah.
So he quit the guild and he shows up with this dangerous tech, and there have been several people who have done this.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. There's a little bit of shtick about how much several means, how many number that, what number that refers to, till Red Death gets them back on track.
Yes.
Says, listen, Dr. Mrs. the Monarch can investigate this contamination.
Combination.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Combination.
Yeah.
Which he had just learned about. He picked up the borrow word.
He says that, and then Phantom Limb echoes it and says, yes, we must deal with this combination. And then they call him out saying, come on, you just learned that when we did.
Yeah.
Don't try and play smart. Don't do the most Phantom Limb possible thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dean pulls up to the new headquarters of the Order of the Triad. Yay.
Yeah.
Barely got them in season 7. They're a big part of this movie, or the Order of the Dyad.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. They unfortunately had to leave Al back at home, primarily for time reasons. Doc says, and this is just a reality, like we couldn't afford to have another person chiming in. like that.
Just time wise, again, not money wise or scheduling.
Yeah, you can get Dana Snyder. Yeah. But they pull up and, they got this new headquarters at this, real ass building. It's an old synagogue. It's this Doctor Strange building. And they're fighting against the last thing, the Schmeddle golem, the pants golem, this golem that is made out of just old laundry. It is the last thing from the pitch book that had not been included. So this 20-year-old document finally is closed. Yeah.
Yes. They're fighting against thing. They eventually take it down. And Dr. Orpheus deduces that Dean is there for help finding Hank.
He's like, wait, how'd you know that? Yeah. Oh, magic guy.
So Dean, he's like, do you have anything for him? And Dean produces Hank's neckerchief.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not a bloodhound. Dr. Hank knows where, or Dr. O knows where Hank is. He's right there pointing to Dean's heart.
Yes.
Dean, is going to shrug this off, but it's a note that's in his pocket. It's the note he read in the finale.
Right. I'm a terrible brother. I'm a terrible brother. No. And Orpheus, says like, hey, the clear remorse in this letter, will be a highway that we can follow to Hank's whereabouts. And we get kind of this kind of flash forward, like just a bunch of flashes of things that are going to happen through the rest of the movie. Saying like, hey, he's oscillating between worlds, betwixt selves. You must go to him at once. And then we get to the Hank stuff in this, which is amazing.
It's really good. It's phenomenal.
This is so heartening as well. And it's such God, I love Hank as a character. They clearly love Hank. And to give him this resolution is so necessary. And
they do a really good job with it.
Yeah.
It's also one of the all-time best needle drops they've done. This is Small Town Boy by Bronski Beat.
Yeah.
And this is perfect for the soundtrack here.
Yeah.
Cutting to Hank on a train, like riding the rails.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna be on a better train later. Writing in his journal. He talks about
he's in the better train now. We're gonna get to the bad train.
He goes back. Writing his journal, a week ago he was a happy go Hanky kid. And we get the recap of what happened with Serena and his brother. Yeah,
him fighting his brother, cheating with his girlfriend and, heading off on his own. And so he sold all of his stuff to these unhoused people and then hops on. So like, okay, well, I'm going to hop on the boat. Where is it going to take me? He leaps off of the pier. It turns out it's on this 3-hour Manhattan pleasure cruise.
Yeah, it just takes him to across the street. Basically.
Yeah, he thought it was going to take him to Disco Island, which is a real place.
Yeah. Yep. Well, he calls out it's off of Greenland.
Yes.
So then he starts riding the rails there, and he sees a guy roasting a rat, and another guy shitting in the corner. And he's like, "Wait a minute, I'm rich." So now he's on a luxury train. It's what Batman would do. Batman's rich.
And so he pays for surf and turf that he barely ate with a giant novelty check that he takes out and unfolds, and it's bigger than the table.
I love that.
Which is exactly what Hank would do.
It's really good. So he's going to the last place where he had himself before before all this, where he found himself, the compound.
Yeah. He's right. Okay. He's writing in his journal and we see that he's got one of those color changing pens, where it clicks down. You think that's just, because he's a kid, you love these things. It's important. It is seated here because as he is narrating this, as he's writing it, we see that he has his alter egos here. Enrique Matassa, the Italian lover, the Italian Lothario, tells him like, yes, it is like you are going to find your old flames while you're in town to ask them why they left you, like in High Fidelity. And then Russian Guyovich, who gets a full character design here.
Has had an update.
Yes.
He's now a tracksuit wearing human trafficker. the innocent Russian Guyovich, who is just a henchman exchange program. Very different now.
Yeah.
He's in the flesh trade.
Yeah. A Russian guy is like, or like Zoe Kravitz in High Fidelities. And then also Detective Hank is here, and so is the Bat. It's all of these.
The League of Extraordinary Hanks.
Yep.
It's so good. It does make me want a tactics RPG where you play as all the Hanks.
All the aspects of Hank. They would fit into 5
aspects of Hanks. Yeah. And you a grid-based tactics game.
Yeah. Enrique is kind of the face of the things. The Bat is stealth. You've got Russian Guyovich as the muscle, and Detective Hank being a sharpshooter, a gun kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Shit. Final Fantasy Hanktics or something like that. There's something there. Yeah, I don't know. Way into it.
Yeah.
And they say, like, they're talking about all this high fidelity stuff, finding the women who left you. And they say there's really only one woman who left you.
Yeah.
The conductor says the next stop is Denver, Colorado, and Hank's journal has the writing with all the different characters, the different colors of the pen represent the characters, and he just in big letters, find her.
Yeah. Talking about his mom. We're going to get the mommy bomb.
Yeah. And I love the way that resolves.
Yes.
Again, made me messed up.
Yeah.
So the Monarch and 21, look at the Arch card the Mantilla gave her. I love that in the commentary, Doc's like, I just made up a QR code. Like I didn't make a real one. Like back in the day, we might have had that go to our website, but I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Because if somebody does that in a thing, I always feel like that's too clever.
Yeah.
Like, I could scan this if I really want to, if I want to have a little fun interactive adventure while I'm watching a movie.
Yeah. A second screen experience.
Yeah. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
They don't do that. The Monarch is like, we have no reason to stick with the guild.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't we go to this?
Yeah. And 21's like, oh, well, I can think of a reason. Your wife is going to flip if you fall in with your ex.
Yeah.
Mara says, no, Debbie left me. I found out that she was cheating on me with Rusty, right?
Yeah.
And 21 is like, oh, well, that's like origin myth stuff. Like, no, that's like reason number 100 that I hate Venture. But it obviously, is under his skin.
Yeah, he's being lying about that.
Yes.
It bothers a lot more than anything. So that's also, again, one of the big questions that more or less gets answered in this. Like, there's big themey reasons. Which we'll get into with the ending and stuff. But in terms of the surface level reason, that is the reason. It's something very mundane, but 21 scans the QR code and it starts downloading and uploading data. I hope they don't get into my spank bank. My porn is very specific. It's very hard to explain.
I love that. Very specific.
Yeah.
But then the Arch hover tank kind of phases in, and Debbie asks him, "What can Arch do for you?"
Yep. We cut over to the OSI cleaning up after the brick frog hit, and Shore Leave and Brock are leading the effort. Antagonists go in that pile, scientists go in the body bags.
Yeah.
There.
If I can lodge one complaint against the movie, and I was happy to hear the boys say this, I wish that Brock and Shore Leave had more to do.
There's a lot of there are a lot of appearances I wanted, and a lot of just wanting a little bit more.
Yeah.
I also wanted more The Alchemist.
Yeah.
Brock, though, is the biggest omission because he's the most important character.
Yes.
To not get a lot to do. There's nothing I would cut from the movie other than a couple of individual, like, just back and forth.
Oh, what's a several or a few?
What's a several? Like, I would cut that shit with a knife.
Yeah.
With a gun. I'd cut that so fast. But the in general, I want that too.
Yeah.
I getting to say goodbye is good enough for me. So guild representatives show up. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch and Red Death. And they start exchanging information. And again, do you want to work together on this? Should we do this? The protagonist was Professor Vigo Dale, who's working on indestructible building material.
Yeah. Obviously he didn't make his lab out of it.
Yeah.
And Brock notices Red Death is going over and messing with the bodies.
I love this.
And they go over and they have this little conflict. We don't see what happens there. Shore Leave and Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch just start speculating about who would win between them.
Who do you have on that? And just like, oh, you're Red Death all the way. Like, really, he's like 70.
Yeah.
And I love Brock dismissing Red Death, like, go back to your haunted castle or whatever.
And Brock comes over like, hey, what were you talking about? I was like, hey, do you think you could take him? He's like 80. But then he says, all right, well, he's just a little bit scared.
They withhold that. We never get to see that knockdown drag out, which would be pretty fun. We've seen them fight a little bit before. I know. Red Death and Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch leave. Red Death grabbed one of the henchmen's phones, and he's like, how did you get that evidence, or whatever? And he took his hand as well, just in case it had a fingerprint lock, because he's badass.
Brutal.
Yeah. We show Debbie showing the Monarch and 21 around Arch headquarters, and it's like Apple Store stuff. The idea is this is not old school. This is high tech.
They're global. Like, it isn't just in the city. They've celebrated their 100,000th vanquishing. And this seems like a real sweetheart deal. They do all the dirty work and the villain gets all the glory. They have this technology to instantly warp in equipment. This is all a sham.
Yes.
This is Debbie using her invisibility powers. We're going to find out, but it is a pitch that is laser targeted at the Monarch.
Yeah, would be hard for anyone to resist.
Yeah,
Debbie, does the sell there. You can have anything you want. And 21's like, polls, like for firemen or Batmen, to go down, and the Monarch signs him up on 21's phone. There's another little joke about the porn thing. Don't look at that. He's like, you don't want to look at it. There, the voice actress for Mantilla, Debbie, is great.
Yes.
She's from a show they talk about in the commentary that I'd never heard of before, that has Billy Bob Thornton in it.
Yeah, I had never heard that. The voice actress is it doesn't say. Fucking wikis.
Yeah.
Nina Arianda.
Yeah, I want to
who that is.
Look it up. She's great. It's a really fun performance there, especially later the breakdown she has with Dr. Mrs. the Monarch.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
It's just really charismatic.
Yeah. She is born, or she is, I don't know. Goliath, I think is what it is.
Goliath is the name of the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it.
It's an Amazon Prime Video show.
Oh,
yeah.
That kind of quality.
Yeah.
Then, Jack Reacher quality. So they've joined up. We cut over to Dean, Orpheus, and Jefferson Twilight taking the Bloodmobile. They're looking for Hank.
Yeah.
And they need to stop and get some sleep, and they're driving by Chicago.
Yeah.
And the Jefferson is, mad at Dean. One of the things I really like about this, in addition to building Hank up in this, this special has a lot of contempt for Dean.
Yes.
In a way, like I love Dean. He's my special little Deanie beanie, little Jimmy Dean sausage. But he did a really shitty thing.
Yeah.
And the show up until this point has been really concerned with him as the primary thing. And Hank has always been a joke. That becomes text in this, like characters are actually calling him out at the end. Jefferson straight up says, like, not everything is about you.
Yep.
And we had the several season long arc about him being a mopey little baby about finding this stuff out. It's just the kind of revealing the depths of Hank and being like, just because you have this depth doesn't mean you have immunity.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean everything you do is justified is really great.
Yeah.
The posture this has towards Dean is very good.
Yeah. And Jefferson's like, you're stealing people's lives. Yeah, you're a vampire, mapping it onto things. Yeah. So they need a place to sleep. So they stop into what would have been a whole episode.
One of my favorite sequences in the show.
Oh, it's so good. The anti-hero collective, not team, shared work, live space.
The we space, we work. For solo people. It's this rundown warehouse, an old handy dandy warehouse, and it wasn't Jefferson's old team. They just kind of all rented the same space because it was cheap rent to operate out of.
It's his old peers.
Yes. I love it. They're like, and they were trying to figure out in their mind, they were like, there's tons of stuff that happens in these warehouses.
Yeah.
But then when they were trying to brainstorm, they could barely think of stuff that happened in them, which is really funny. So they pass by a guy named Clayton, who is a dark man.
Clayton's the one who greets him. He's a dark man, but he's wearing a Freddy Krueger print scarf.
Yes,
around his neck. And this is a Wide Whale's voice actor, Hal Lublin.
Yes,
doing this, and they're like, hey, let's say you're doing a Darkman kind of thing. So he went real deep on Darkman.
He watched Darkman. He's like, can I cackle like Darkman's constantly cackling?
That's the thing. He's always laughing. So so they work it in, and it's amazing. I was like, hey, it's like, he's threatening at first, but he's actually a really nice guy. He says, hey, your old stuff's still here, just go stay in your room, right? Then they pass by the other warehouse anti-hero folks.
Tough Love, who is an old pitch, their Punisher version, who instead of having a shirt with a skull on it, wears a skeleton on the front of him. God, I love Tough Love.
Yeah. And then they've got Seth Brundle.
The fly guy.
Yeah, emerges from a teleporter pod with a roach arm. Like, hey, we got roaches.
Yeah. They're not team. These are just anti-heroes pool their resources there. Yeah. And we get to see Jefferson's old house, like his apartment. I love it. This is also the first like real highlight we've gotten for Jefferson.
He's always like a second fiddle kind of guy.
Yeah. And I've always wanted like a Jefferson episode, and we kind of get it in the movie. In addition to answering all these big long-term questions. All of this stuff, the things with the New Jack Swing vampires.
God, the Blood Brothers.
The Blood Brothers fucking kill me, dude. Absolutely slay me. Like all these ladies dressed up for church. Like, it's really good.
God. But that'll resolve later.
Yes.
Cut over to Hank. A straw falls off the back of a straw truck at the old compound, which was it revealed that this is in Colorado before?
Yes.
I always thought it was in the mountains of California.
No. It California. I think it got revealed in the episode with Reggie Watts, where he's like the Shining guy. Who has the Shining. The UPS delivery. I think that's when they mention it's in Colorado.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And Hank is upset. This is the first time he's been back here to see that everything has been demolished. It's just the basements, the footprints of all the buildings, and then the statue, the Jonas Venture holding Rusty statue.
Yeah. And then we get one of my favorite, again, just very bittersweet things. He pans across looking, and we get flashback memories of all this great stuff that's happened throughout the series. A lot of it happening in this yard, some of it not happening in this yard.
Mm-hmm.
We get Mecha Shiva, we get the scary Annette, thing. We get him jumping off the roof as Batman. We get the touch football game where Dean got fire ants on his ass.
Yeah.
All this stuff. It's so good.
We get Hanko's lemonades and grinders.
Yeah. Like your old friends are here.
Yeah.
And then we get this scene from the pilot, like way back to the pilot, where, Hank goes, Ma Venture never raised him, no fools. And Dean says, we don't have a mom, Hank. And then Hank turns to the camera and goes, that's right. We don't have a mom.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good taking this old footage and remixing it.
Yeah. And this turns into a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
And he, gets a flash. He remembers back to Action Man in Coma Town, telling him, hey, your mom is this actress, Bobby St. Simone, right?
Yeah.
So we have a name, but we don't have no context for who that is.
Yes. And remember, right before this happened, Hank got hit on the head real hard.
Yep.
So that's why this stuff is kind of dreamy and swimmy and coming in and out.
Yeah.
He just got out of Coma Town.
Right. Yeah. This is all interrupted. He's kind of broken from his reverie by Dermot, who is still haunting around here. He's on patrol. He doesn't have a license for lethal weapons, but he's got a super soaker full of this.
Yes, perfect. This is referencing Hannibal.
Yes.
Or Red Dragon, like a guy selling, Hannibal Lecter merch.
Yeah, the orderly selling Hannibal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rusty rehearses his keynote reveal of the Helper Pod while they're trying to change the name to something different.
No, he keeps trying to change the name as they're finalizing the marketing. Like,
but
the
they've
box is already printed.
And also that you get to see in the background them like change the price on the digital display from like a factor of 10.
Yeah, it goes from $200 to $1,000.
Yeah, it's great. Billy leaves because his mom's making chicken piccata. It's chicken piccata. We're gonna need our energy.
Mm-hmm.
He's carrying one of the helper pods with him. He's gonna work overnight to fix the bugs.
Right. The Monarch, wakes up. It's nighttime. It's ready. It's time to actually use this new stuff. And him and 21 ride their poles down to their cave, to the Monarch cave, and they drop into their new suits. And they're admiring all of it, like, hey, it's so great. But the suits have these big, gross, outy belly buttons.
Yes. Really disgusting. They press them and they find out they're grappling hooks.
Yeah.
So they're having fun.
They're playing with them a little bit. They got grappling, belly grapples. Yeah.
Yeah. And then 21 orders a hover tank and some henchmen for this hit on Venture. They're going to do it.
Yeah.
We do a hard cut
to something. I thought I was losing my mind because I was like, follow that bikini. Why is that familiar? They seeded this. Serena was watching the same trailer for Follow That Bikini, like a takeoff of these old 60s beach movies. We cut to the trailer. They're watching it on YouTube. It's about this woman who got turned invisible in a science accident. And we see all the incidental characters, the nerdy professor, just the general.
The trailer is really well observed.
Yeah.
For something that is very specific.
Yeah.
There's like a drummer playing the drum or an ape playing the drums. Stuff like that. Like it's very silly.
Yeah.
Back in the 60s, if you want to make a movie, it could just be like kids kind of do something on a beach. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, 2/3 of them had Elvis.
Yep.
In them, it was a real weird thing.
Yeah, but this movie, the woman in the titular bikini is Bobby St. Simone.
Yes. They're in Brock's old room that is kind of like a trailer. It's made up to look like it, but it's like it's a trailer that's like decorated with compound stuff and probably siding from inside the compound.
Yeah, like paneling. It intentionally looks like Brock's old room. Dermot's living there. It's like off base housing. Kind of here. There's a death clock poster on the wall. There's also just
a billion Easter eggs.
Oh yeah, so
you can find them all on the wiki. Yeah, if you want to. Including spoiler Easter eggs for the end of the movie.
The thing that Hank picks up and then tosses to the side.
Yeah, it's great. I love the orb is there.
Well,
and then it's like,
it's just cast aside. It's just broken. It just falls because
Fuck
Dermot
you fans.
Dermot recognizes Bobby. Like, hey, there's this photo in the safe. It's a photo of Bobby. It's autograph for Rusty, and it says XOXO. Like, oh, she obviously XOXO'd him. She's your mom.
That's mom. Yeah. They're interrupted by Ben, who yells from outside the trailer. This was actually, they talk about this being a really useful studio note. Yeah. They had Ben show up at the end, and somebody said, like, hey, if you're going to do this, you have to establish him earlier. Yeah. And also, we're going to get J.K. Simmons. You may as well use him.
Yeah.
Yells from outside the trailer. Dermot's like, oh, it's that trespasser. You're the trespasser. You sticky fingered little fascist.
I love Ben so goddamn much.
Ben's great. J.K. Simmons is such a treasure.
Yeah.
This year between Baldur's Gate 3 and Glorious, just his future as a voice actor.
Yeah.
He doesn't even need to be in anything else. What a perfect voice.
Just infinite presence on that man. Yeah.
God, he's so good. And this YouTube suggests a related video, and this is a commercial for an animal shelter that Bobby runs. This is a great idea. I also love them talking about this in the commentary, how you like watch TV late at night, and like they'll show you those sick dog commercials
with the eye goop.
And like that is 100%. A lot of late night TV is just like, look at these sad, sick fucking dogs. Look at them.
It's like nobody's on the other side of this.
Yeah, who are you yelling at? It was just a constant thing on TV, and the idea of that in a super science world.
Where all of these animals are modified. Having firearms put on their head. It's being
the mutated
being
ocelot from Shadow Man and the Cradle of Destiny is there. Again, big callbacks.
Yeah, so it's just taking care of all these little villain animals, right? Doing rehab for them, and it's right down the road.
Yep. Perfect. We can go check it out.
Yeah.
Orpheus wakes up. He's feeling that Hank is on the trail, so he's like, we have to leave there. But because the sun hasn't come up yet, they're leaving before sunrise. Vampires attack. They notice the blood vessel.
Chi-Town belongs to the Blood Brothers now.
And the idea is these are all Blackulas who got turned in the 90s. In like New Jack Swing times.
Yeah, God, it's so good.
Dude, it's great.
It's like that is such a cool aesthetic anyway.
It's very good.
Yeah,
I love it. It's very funny.
It just this combination of cool and dated. I don't know. Yeah.
It's real good. Orpheus. And also it's a nice coming back to, so like when you're doing a Blackula thing, and even Jefferson Twilight himself, the obvious thing is to go back to like Huggy Bear. Yeah. Go back to 70s stuff. But there are a couple cool, embarrassing, funny moments in Black culture you can go back to.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to all be 70s groovy shit.
Yeah.
Go back to New Jack Swing stuff. It's great. Orpheus tries using magic, but magic doesn't work on vampires.
Right.
So he goes and hides in the blood vessel.
Yeah. He is useful though. Jefferson gets one of them pinned on the windshield. Like activate the windshield wipers. Use the fluid. It's got holy water in there.
I love it.
He turns and like winks to the camera, which is straight up something from Blade.
Yeah, they ended up watching all the Blade movies to get this reference. And
twist my arm, make me watch the Blade movies.
Dude, like if only they were horror. Movies. I talked about it with Jeremy before for Days of Future Cast, which I think is the closest I could watch the Blades.
That'd be the good map. Yeah, that closest.
Just get Blade on the X-Men for 1 fucking minute and we can. So they capture Jefferson and they say they're going to kill him, but they're going to turn Dean and Orpheus into the vampires.
Yeah.
I don't think they can pull off that New Jack style. Love that. A little bit here. Important thing at one point, Jefferson tackles Dean. Gets him out of the way. That's important for later.
Yeah.
Also, there's I love Dean getting into the coffin in the back and it being a tanning bed.
Yep.
Like, what a funny trap.
Yeah.
For a vampire.
God, it's just a little gag, but it's such a good concept. It just fits.
It's really good.
This show's good, I think.
It's really good. What a reminder. You know? Especially just as somebody who, again, season 7 let me down a little bit. Especially how it ended. Like, this fucking felt like manna from heaven.
Yeah.
Orpheus teleports out of their grasp. They think he's leaving, but he actually teleports back with a sock and reactivates the Shmata Golem. Yeah. Which is kind of the backpack, the pants golem.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this, so the Hebrew word for pants, or the character, is also their word for life.
Yeah, so it's the whole word that is written across the forehead of the golem, and then just by coincidence, the middle of the phrase is 2 characters that represent miracle, and the thing is activated by taking that part that is miracle and completing the word. You take and
you turn it into pants.
Yeah, which is also like the golem being activated by the scroll inside, right?
Yes.
Like it is the holy characters that animate it. Yeah.
It's mythologically sound. You know, and they can't fight they can't fight a pants golem. You know, they was defeated by magic. They're vampires. They use this as a distraction to get away. But Dean has 2 little holes in his neck. He's been bit. This is also something where, like, I like the anticlimax of this.
Yeah.
I would have done an episode of Vampire Dean.
Oh yeah.
I would have done the fuck out of an episode of Vampire Dean. God,
you're gonna be mopey and gothy. Oh, come on, man.
Well, here you go. Yeah. And do you become a Blackula when you get bitten by a?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many unanswered questions.
The Monarch and 21 roll up to Ventec. There's a little bit of fake out.
Yeah.
We're talking about cops being there, like, dude, it's the police, you know. You think they're talking about cops there, but they're actually talking about music. They're talking about the song Rosanna. Or Roxanne versus Rosanna, one being a police song, one being a Toto song.
Yeah, Monarch was dug in on the wrong answer. He thought Roxanne was Toto.
Why do I always dig in?
Yeah,
again, it's going to come up later.
Yeah,
the Monarch's heart is kind of not into it. You know? He's like, I don't want to do the speech, so let's just fire the big cannon. They do, and it's this laser that blasts the Monarch logo into the glass. But they can't get in through the logo because it's too delicate.
I like that. The graphic design coming back to bite them. And this trips the alarm. The tower goes into lockdown, and Rusty is dropped into the panic room. And the elevator doesn't work, so we have Hatred in what he does in this, which is primarily running up and downstairs and getting more and more winded.
Yes. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch meets with Brock, Shore Leave, and Red Death. This is an incredibly fucking weird scene if you don't remember the game very well.
Yeah.
Until I was like, this has to be something, and it's on the tip of my brain, but I can't remember what.
Yeah.
It's a direct one-to-one parody of the game.
Yes.
The game moving into Minority Report.
Yeah. The Michael Douglas film directed by David Fincher. The thing he did prior to Fight Club.
Yeah, which I've seen, I just don't remember.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Nothing wrong with the game.
Not tip of the tongue.
Yeah. Brock and Shore Leave and Red Death are at the Arch headquarters. They have evidence that links Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch to it. Yeah. And they're like, the evidence is incontrovertible. We're going to give you a moment to run. And then Shore Leave goes on her face and goes, run! Which is the game thing.
Yeah,
yeah. And she runs away. We see all the forces surrounding the tower. She blasts her out of the tower, jumps, and lands on Daisy, Red Death's horse.
Yeah.
And this is, Doc Hammer's genius, decided to give the horse a voice.
Yeah.
Originally, it was just going to be a getaway vehicle, but he's like, what if they have like a psychic link?
Yeah.
And we end up with a lot of the best, what I think is the best visual gag.
Oh, yeah.
In the movie later.
Yeah.
I love that bus thing, but this makes me laugh like none other.
Yeah. But also it gets us more Clancy Brown too.
Yes.
It's Red Death speaking through Daisy. So back at Ventec Tower, the Monarch and 21 are squeezed through the logo. And they're abandoned. The henchmen fly the tank away, leaving them stranded there. And Hatred starts firing. And this is when Mantilla across the street uses her phone, hacking into Ventec Tower through 21's phone, causing the helper pods to start blaring It Takes Two by Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock and cranking up the volume.
It has the very scary beginning to it. And it's the song is a bop. I always get it confused with Groove Is in the Heart, which I don't like. And I always just think about the It Takes Two part, But the verses of this are fucking sick.
Oh yeah.
Really, really good. And because every helper pod is floating, the building starts floating.
Yeah.
Lifting out of its foundations. The OSI spots the tower. Look, 3:00, Brock of Seagulls. Isn't that your house? Really good. Brock radios Rusty like, hey, get out of the panic room. Look out the windows.
Fucking window.
Windows,
Yeah, and simultaneously, the helper pod at Pete and Billy's, over at Colonel Gentleman's place, starts floating, and Colonel Gentleman shoots it out of the air.
Yeah, playing. It Takes Two.
Yes,
and Colonel Gentleman comes down and shoots it.
That's why we don't bring our super science home.
Yeah, his only line, his only bit in the movie, but I'm glad we got to see him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So back over on the East River. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is riding Daisy, you're running over the water here and talking to Red Death through it.
This is where we get the name.
Yes.
She asked what to call her. And he's like, my daughter Lila named the horse. Yeah. I want to name her Lady Disaster. But that's more of a band name.
God, that's a good one.
That is a Doc Hammer ass line.
Oh, yeah.
And a Doc Hammer ass band name, if I've ever heard one.
So Red Death explains, talking through Daisy, saying like, hey, we knew that you were innocent, but we couldn't stop the hammer from dropping. Like they were going to come after you. But in searching the place, we did find out where Mantilla lives. Yes. We're going to, that's where I'm taking you. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
We cut over to Orpheus, who has appeared in Dermot's trailer to ask where Hank is. He's on the case.
Yeah.
There. Dermot tries to cover for him.
Yeah.
Here. And
I love Orpheus. Liar, pants aflame, and then does an illusion of the of his Dermot's pants being on fire. Good.
Yeah. Dean and Jefferson show up. Dean is now wearing a hoodie and sunglasses because he thinks he's a vampire, and roughs up Dermot with his superhuman strength, aka confidence. Yep. Nice little echo of before. This is the second time that Dean has manhandled Dermot just through being confident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, what is this? The good cop Unipalm routine? It's because the way he's dressed. And, this gets Dermot to say, like, Hank's going to his mom after this zoo down the road. And Dean, again, for no reason other than he thinks he's a vampire, he does the hiss at him.
I love it. Said Jefferson, and walks outside, covering himself from the sun, muttering about the change.
The change is coming. Oh, no, I can't stop
Little peek of old Dean with the big imagination. Love it.
Yeah. Hank has, in the wreckage, found his old hover bike, which is busted up now.
We're also going to learn the origins of that, which I love.
Yeah. And arrives at the Helping Hands Animal Sanctuary, and it's all locked up. Yep. The alter egos are like, oh, how are you going to get in or whatever? And he just crawls over the gate. And they say like, and so he leaves them behind, and the altar's just standing out there saying like, this isn't who I thought his mom was going to be. And Russian Guyevich is like, I thought it would be prostitute, which that's Hank. That's Hank, so he knows his dad.
It is him knowing his dad for sure. Again, with Russian Guyevich being in the flesh trade.
Yes.
As we're going to find out more of later. A gorilla attacks Hank, but Bobby calls him off, voiced by Jane Lynch.
Perfectly. Yes.
Yeah, very, very great performance. And she identifies him.
Yeah.
Immediately. One of the most really clever things that happens in this thing, she's like, oh, it's Hank. Where's Dean? He's like, oh, me and Dean had a falling out, and she's very sad about that. And he's like, well, that's bad. Family is everything,
And this delivery, is that supposed to be a fucking joke?
I love it. The boys only say fuck like once each, I think. And they're both absolutely calculated bombs, With all due respect, Mr. Outrider, fuck you, So she starts telling her story. We're going to get into that a little bit later.
Back at the pending crisis here, and Billy's talking to Rusty with details about what's happening, saying like, hey, you got to turn these things off, but if you do it all at once, like we can't just send a kill signal or whatever, the tower's going to plummet, and from that height, it's going to take out half of Manhattan. Like it's your responsibility not to kill these people.
Yes. Rusty wants to bail.
Yeah.
He said, I never wanted to make consumer products anyway. I just wanted to do super science stuff. There's a hint of truth to that. Like him getting into consumer science stuff, or consumer products is what JJ did. And he had to, his path wasn't working.
Yeah.
But Billy just says, are you done feeling sorry for yourself? Like, you have to do this heroic act.
Yeah.
They destroy them one by one, so the tower will slowly descend. He's like, how do we get rid of them? He's like, we found shooting them works. And Billy starts saying, but the electromagnetism, but it gets cut off because they're leaving orbit.
Yeah. Out of signal range.
Yeah.
So Hatred was running up the stairs to the hangar so they could escape, but it's time for him to turn around, saying like, hey, go back down to the lobby. We got to take care of this. Right.
Yep.
And they're interrupted. 21 and Monarch are pounding on the windshield of the plane that Rusty's in. Like, hey, we need help. Right.
Yes. Brock's in the new OSI Hover quarters, trying to convince Hunter not to shoot down the tower once it starts falling.
Yeah.
He's, saying like, give me a chance. Hunter, nice to see Hunter for a moment. This is one cluster you can't unfuck with a Bowie knife. This has never happened before. Like, the idea is, this is too big a deal. There are too many lives to just give you a chance.
Yeah.
He says this never happened before. And then Snoopy says, Dr. Doom did this with the Fantastic Four, lifting the Fantastic Tower, Fantastic Four building. And the commentary with Doc and Jackson both being like, this is the funniest line in the movie. I love this so much. And I'm like, I love these boys so much, and I'm so in line with them. It's the John Hodgman difference. They just love John Hodgman and think he's the funniest thing on wheels.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm just like, that. This just felt like a weird non sequitur. I hate Snoopy so much.
They were also selling like one of them was saying like, oh, I was just the one joke in this that really sticks out to me is just like when they're talking about the superhero movies, like, oh, it's a job. It's that's like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm exposed to more Twitter than they are, but like that's just the most basic observation about this stuff.
They're talking about the TV shows too, and I had a moment of technically where I'm like, there's really only one running superhero show, and then like one of them a year. Two of them a year on Disney, like in terms of TV, it's not mostly superheroes.
Yeah.
In terms of movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like, what does every TV show have to be about superheroes? I'm like, what? The Boys and what? What are you talking about? But anyway, Snoopy fucking sucks. Who I realized he reminds me of a little bit in terms of just having a single note shtick that I never think is funny. Professor Frink.
Oh,
in The Simpsons.
Okay.
I don't like Professor Frink.
Oh.
It's never made me laugh. It's the same joke every single time. The joke is just that he talks like a guy with an annoying, funny voice.
It sounds like Jerry Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, like that's the entirety of the joke.
Yeah,
like it's the same kind of thing, just like a real one-note kind of guy.
Yeah, I also like that he makes just terrible inventions.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
The inventions are and also really good ones. He invented a rocket car or like a rocket bike and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. But just again, him with the little popcorn popper thing. The
popcorn popper thing is good. Like there's not like there are no good Professor Frink moments.
Yeah,
he'll make you laugh, he'll make you think. But it just it reminds me of Snoopy, and they're just like this weird ancillary character who's in it just enough to like say something that's not very funny.
Yeah,
in a scene.
Yeah. It does turn into something funny though, because Hunter rolls along with it and like, and how did Reed and the FF get out of that situation? And it's like, yes, and Namor the Submariner. Yeah. And then, and does he have one of those? And Brock, does this dramatic speech like, Rusty's gotten himself out of worse. He's got the know-how, the smarts. Yeah, and just everybody laughs. Like, they just can't. They know who Rusty is.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yes.
So he basically, he says all their hope is just on Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch stopping Arch, stopping this from happening. We cut over to Mantella's apartment. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch and Daisy break into the apartment, and she's got a corkboard, conspiracy corkboard.
Yes.
Like
this transition, it looks like an episode of Intervention in here, and they find the corkboard, or an episode of CSI. Yeah. And it's all. He does the gag isn't just yet. It's not just yet.
Yeah. It's all spy photos of the Monarch and Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch. This is a clever misdirect. You think, like she's after the Monarch.
It's so much more interesting than what they think it is too. I like this a lot. Yeah,
I like it too. Mantella appears holding a gun to Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch's head. And, she says, you should have been here. It should have been there,
Yeah. And Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, just kind of incorrectly guesses, saying like, oh, like you missed the Monarch. You wanted to marry him. That is who you're stalking, right? All this evidence is there. And just like, yeah, there's all of this says this, and I love this. This is a very good joke. She's like, yeah, no, it started as kind of a checklist, and then I had all these pictures, and I got some yarn. You never set out to make an I'm crazy wall, but they happen. It's an organic thing.
It's very good.
Yeah. And Red Death chimes in saying like, hey, you attempted to interfere in the sanctity of this marriage, him being this faithfully married man kind of guy, and she says like, hey, you need to stop chiming in. And this is when
this is great. This is the best visual gag in the show, in the movie, I think, and one of the best in the series.
Yeah,
she puts a gun to his head and orders him to sit down, and then the horse just sits on a chair. And I love the commentary where they're talking about how they're not sure if that would work. They're like, this seems like it's gonna be funny. Would it be funny visually? That is a skill that I am always impressed by. Like something that ends up being incredibly funny, but would be very simple on the page.
Yes.
And understanding the kind of alchemy that would happen.
Yes.
Turning it into visual comedy. It's great.
Yeah, it sits down on it so gingerly with the front paws like resting on his knees.
It's very cute. It's really good. Red Death puts it together though. Oh, like you're not obsessed with the monarch, you're obsessed with Sheila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. We're going to learn more, but we cut over. It is time for some exposition here about Bobby St. Simone. Yes. She's telling her story to Hank, and this is all in flashback. She was on the studio lot in the 60s for the shooting of Follow That Bikini. Yep. I love all of the background stuff going on here.
There's tons of stuff.
Oh yeah,
like
and a lot of it is just like repurpose things from other places in the series. Like, we had art for these like Roman centurions, so like let's put this in here. But like a gag that is not dwelled upon, but that I absolutely love is Jonas was on the lot because he was helping Kubrick fake the moon landing.
Yeah, really cute. She caught Jonas's eye, and he says, I have a better way of making you invisible than using paint, like using chroma key stuff, and did it through super science. Made her invisible with a machine. They fucked because that's Jonas.
That's Jonas. That's what he does.
On her way down, she met Rusty, but Rusty was just a little kid.
Yeah.
That's when she gives him the picture that Dermot had.
Yeah. And Rusty heartbreakingly asks, are you my mommy?
Yeah.
So like this is generational.
Yeah. So sad.
The mommy bomb kind of thing, right? The timeline didn't match up for Bobby to be the mom. So Follow the Bikini came out and it bombed. It was not a good movie, and her career didn't go anywhere. And Jonas didn't undo her invisibility powers. He saw that he had leverage.
Yeah. Him with a couple of the agents. A couple of the card holders are there sending her on a mission. She turns invincible. She's going to go spy on Force Majeure, the guild thing. When she fell in with the guild and dresses up as Dazzler. Love it. She's 70s disco Dazzler. One of the greatest superhero costumes of all time. There are so many Easter eggs in this that are so fun. You get to see, this is the first time we get to see Crimodile.
Yep.
Did you know it's Crimodile? In there? Yeah. You get to see Young Dragoon. I love Young Dragoon whenever we get to see Young Dragoon.
Yeah.
And stuff. Very good.
Yeah.
So she's a double agent. She's handing over villains, but she won't hand over Force Majeure because she's pregnant.
Yes. She is pregnant. With Force Majeure, they're in love. And Hank jumps to conclusion saying like, wait a minute, holy shit, is Force Majeure my dad? But that doesn't make sense either.
And then she's like, no, just chill out. We also learned, just because I'm a dork who likes superhero shit, Force Majeure has wind powers. We learned that. He's shooting. Yeah, he's fighting Jonas in one of these flashbacks, and he's conjuring tornadoes out of his hands.
Yeah.
So that's what it looks like. So the Sovereign usurped Force Majeure, and Bobby took their daughter and fled to the Venture compound.
Their daughter, Debbie. Took her there. Asking for help, right? Like, hey, Jonas was dead by this point. But we knew, like, we knew Rusty. He was continuing on the work. Rusty there, he was carrying a torch. Like, he had the framed photo of Bobby on his lab desk.
Well,
right?
he's carrying a torch, but also maybe he thinks it's his mom.
Oh, true.
He's carrying like a Hank-esque torch.
Yeah, true.
He's feeling the same abandonment issue that Hank's feeling.
Yeah, true.
That whole idea that the Rusty, Jonas put Rusty through the same shit Rusty puts his kids through.
Yes. Yeah. She stops her story there, saying like, hey, nothing else happened. Nothing else happened between her and Rusty. I'm not your mother, Hank. I've already told you all of this.
Yeah, I love that reveal.
Yeah.
Like, of course he would. This is not that deep of a mystery. You can say like, 7 seasons. Why didn't they figure it out? And it's like, oh, they did. It's just their clones did it and they got memory wiped. Either, they did it as clones and they died, or they got OSI wiped, depending on when it happened. But it has happened.
Yeah. And so poor Bobby just keeps on living through this. Just occasionally, here comes a confused teen.
Yes. To call me mom, and I have to explain my life story.
Yeah. And when it comes back later on, when Dean shows up.
I know, it's great. This overwhelms him, and he faints. He returns to Coma Town.
He's really frustrated by this fact.
Yeah, he does not like it. Orpheus shows up there on the trail. We get Rusty and the Monarch. They're bickering in the elevator when the Monarch asks Rusty why he really fucked Debbie.
Yeah.
We're putting, that's Mantilla, Bobby's daughter. And Rusty's like, we never, yo-yo-doed, very cute. He doesn't believe it.
No.
And they're like, well, yeah, that would have been weird, and what about this thing about us being related to each other?
You hear about that?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And then I love them both having second thoughts. He's like, then again, my dad did get around. He did your mom. So, and then we cut to the elevator door opening with Monarch strangling him.
Yeah.
Here for calling his mom loose for having sex with Jonas.
Yeah. But they're interrupted. Hatred and Helper get in the elevator. Helper has a shotgun, and Rusty's like, "Oh, you've been waiting for this all day, haven't you?" And he cocks his shotgun. I love Helper.
I like Hatred getting in the elevator too, and not realizing the elevators had worked this whole time. Like there's just a pass through.
Yeah. So they get to the lab, and it's time to start taking out these speakers. But they didn't.
The scene is so horrific.
Oh God,
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these superconductor magnets or whatever are still active.
The comedy timing of it is great because in the elevator, like Rusty lays out, he's like short controlled burst, then duck into the elevator to reload. We only have one shot at this, people. Like he's giving the speech, and then as soon as they open it and shoot, the electromagnets tear them all apart. Like rip them open. Hatred shits his pants. Like they're all the blood vessels in their eyes burst. Like it's so good.
They're just being like ripped up in the air. The armor, like the 21's armor is ripped off. Monarch tries to free himself. He tries to pull himself to freedom with the grappling hook, but it just rips the suit of armor off of his body.
Yep. It's so good. They just escape into the vents. Like we're not going to shoot these things one by one. Fuck.
No. There's no way. Like and the guns were yanked out of their hands.
Yeah, immediately. Like, they're metal.
Yeah. So back in Coma Town.
Yes. This is where Russian Guyovich is talking to the dolls, trying to convince them to enter a life of prostitution.
Yes.
Hank learned one thing about Russians between that first episode.
Yeah.
Because Coma Town is whatever your 70s sci-fi movie is. Orpheus flies up and he's in a Zardoz head, dressed up as Sean Connery's character.
He's dressed up as Zed. He's got the red diaper and the long hair. It's good. Just me clapping like a seal when this happens.
I love the idea of Orpheus's version of Coma Town being Zardoz.
Yeah.
Like everybody having a generational, like everyone has a Zardoz or a Star Wars, or those things.
Well,
that's great.
And it's perfect when Dean shows back up. He's Atreyu again from his coma fantasy.
Never-ending story. Like they were going to do a couple episodes in Coma Town, and everyone was going to get into Coma Town. They talk about Brock and Doc.
Yeah,
going in there to chase him. I would have loved to have seen their movie reference.
Their touch points. Yeah. And so Ken comes down dressed as Zed, and Hank's like, "Why are you dressed like Borat?"
Borat, who wears that diaper?
Yeah,
sometimes. Hank's not going to go back with them. He's like, there's nothing for me to return to. Yeah, and Orpheus says, like, no, it's your brother's regret that drove us here.
Yeah,
that and Jefferson's car, but like he cared about you enough for this.
Yeah, like there's a reason for you to go back. Like your brother still loves you.
Yeah.
You know, like you still have family. And we cut to the real world. Like all this action is happening in Coma Town, you know, while Jefferson is touching Hank's body and Orpheus is like statue version. And Dean is just playing like, oh, Jefferson is this Link or whatever. And it's just real awkward, right? And then just after a beat, Bobby says, I'm not your mother, by the way. And he says, oh, I know.
Yeah, he remembers. I love it. So back in Mantilla's apartment, Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch rants at Mantilla about how stupid her plan is. And Mantilla lays it out like, this is ridiculous. You just kept becoming second fiddle to these incompetent, shitty men.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why don't we team up? Like, why was it never my turn?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can do this. We can poach the guild roster. I did that with some apps.
Yeah.
You know, in Illusions, we could take over the world.
Yeah.
You know, and Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch explained something. This is the one little thing in this movie I find a little bit unsatisfying is that for the entire series, I've basically been like, the Monarch fucking sucks and Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch is too good for him.
Yes.
That is addressed but not resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Or not in a satisfying way. It's talked about. Like Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch says, you know, my life has problems, but I don't need to be rescued from it.
Yeah.
I have a choice of where to be. That's true and good.
Mm-hmm.
It still is undermotivated given how one note the Monarch is.
Yes.
You know, and how shitty he is to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was kind of hoping when this happened for her to be like, yeah, and this end with them breaking up. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch and the Monarch together.
Yeah.
And out of this movie, the big plot reveals of how the Monarch relates to everyone I like.
Mm-hmm.
The Monarch content in it is my least favorite.
Yeah.
It's them testing out the new suits. All that stuff just feels like standard Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's batting on the same level as the rest of the movie to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a real high average for it to fall below.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Debbie's like, you know, that's great for you. I never got a chance to choose my own life. You know, my mother did. Yeah. And she's like, oh, and that's why you slept with Rusty. Ooh, no. Like the delivery. That's so good.
Yeah. Just completely out of the question. Never was anything, right?
Nobody wants to fuck Rusty. He's got one canonical. Him. Yeah.
And what the reason, like why she was even like associated with him at all, was that they went to Rusty, and Rusty took took Bobby's invisibility and gave, you know, and passed it down, passed it down to her, in exchange for ... some stuff that I wasn't planning on using. She says,
yes,
yeah.
So which you can put together. She broke up with the Monarch because her mom forbade her from dating a villain. You know, her mom had a bad experience with that. And he knows they're in trouble, you know?
Yeah.
Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch was like, oh shit, you know, your mom was Madame Mazure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that means you're the rightful heir to the guild. You know, and I love this, Daisy kneeling and being like, I bow to the rightful lord of the guild.
And Dr. Mrs. Mark immediately shut up.
Yeah,
that's not how this ends.
That is too stupid. And the horse getting up from a chair and kneeling is also just great visual stuff. Fucking horses, man.
Yeah.
Dr. Mrs. the Monarch says, okay, this is what I'm going to offer you. It's my final offer. Listen up. I'm going to save you from the guild and the OSI. You have to bring the building down and save the Monarch. You know, don't listen to that fucking horse.
and Red Death, he puts his foot in his mouth or his foot in his mouth. Seriously, I need to shut my mouth.
I love it.
and then Debbie is like, yeah, I knew that wasn't going to fly.
It's so good. So Debbie unties Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch and deactivates all the speakers.
Yes.
So up in the tower, the music stops. And they're like, oh, we're floating. That's good. And Rusty's like, no, that's bad. We're in free fall. We're not in space.
Yeah,
like,
it's not just you're in space or out of space, and you're floating or not. Like,
yes,
the things are canceling out.
Falling. Yeah, this is no good. 21 says, well, let's float up to the hangar. We don't know really where it is, but like we can just go up.
Yes.
You know, they have 5 minutes. They climb up. Something I think is, and they talk about this in the commentary, I think this is a bit of an error. They get up to the top and Dr. Hatred lights a match to see where they are. And they show a big mechanical clown face and they scream. It is only there for like a fraction of a second.
Yeah. I had no idea what the fuck I was saying.
I had to pause it and rewind and try to catch on freeze frame.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very satisfying answer. I love it. I'm so happy.
Great.
But
yeah,
it's not a good reveal. It's not a good tease, I guess.
Right.
Misdirect.
Yeah. I think they say in the commentary, like, oh, they're just screaming at colors.
Yes. That's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
So Hank is talking to Orpheus about how, he can't leave here. He can't abandon all of his alter egos. And Orpheus gives one of his like many actually pretty, touching speeches.
Yeah.
He says, you don't need them anymore. They aren't you anymore.
Yeah.
You'll carry them with you always, but their time has passed. Like a child gets rid of a diaper,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true, right? Like it's just a relic of a different you, and it's very sweet. This is also something. So in the full season 8, the altars were going to be revealed to be ghosts of previous
past
Hanks.
deaths.
Yes. That were haunting him, hence bringing which the idea came from the famous line, love the line, it's like he's channeling dead crazy people.
Yes, he would literally be channeling dead crazy people.
Yes. Yeah.
That were also him.
Mm-hmm.
Dean is talking to Bobby, playing with this monkey. That is probably a reference to something, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Touches Hank's chest, which gets him into the astral realm.
Yes.
And he gets sent into Coma Town, falling out as Atreyu. The altars start beating him up, and then Hank comes up and rescues him.
I love it because Prime Hank, like, he's come to terms. All the altars, like, no, they're still on a revenge quest, so they're just going to beat the shit out of him. And then Prime Hank has to apologize, saying, "Hey, sorry about that. Still some residual anger there." Yeah. And they fly away on the Zardoz head. Yeah.
Yep. The boys reunite. They come out of the shelter. I love Hank. Did Pop come too? Oh, he had a thing. Brock? You guys bring Brock? A little bit of a meta joke to that. Yeah. So an air raid siren goes off. The tower is coming down nearby here.
Yeah.
The OSI has trained their guns on the tower. They're about to destroy it. But what pops out but Ventronic?
Hey, remember Ventronic, everybody?
You don't. From the Lepidopterist. One of the music, which is not used very often, comes back.
Yep.
I love this. Like, God, it's the themey shit that happens in this is so good. Just like, Venture Brothers teaming up with his two enemies, like him and his henchmen teaming up against his arch enemy with his henchmen.
Yeah.
To save the day in a literal Voltron thing. It's so good.
Yeah. And I don't know, like this really is just like, to me, this feels great because I can see the process. Like, okay, we've written ourselves into the situation, like looking back at all the toys, which we never put away. Right.
Yeah.
Looking back at all the toys. Well, where would Ventronic be? Well, I mean, they probably could call Sally, but like, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like they could just, it could just be in the tower. So they find it there.
Why not?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very good. They talk about this also in the commentary where they talk about how they had kind of plans to do the movie in different ways and then decided to like make it for the fans. And like, anybody who has listened to our body of work knows that we can resent things that are like for the fans. Like we don't want to be serviced. This is a rare instance where it feels pretty good. It comes partly because it's done really well, and partly because it's a series that's super important to me, and it all feels very organic. Like nothing just feels like The Force Awakens or whatever. Like characters just standing around reciting lines that we're familiar with.
Yeah, it's also like a pretty distant reach.
Yes,
too. And it's a good solution to the problem. And like there are good jokes inherent in this, which is they go Ventronic red is go, Ventronic blue is go, and then the Monarch who is stuck in the clown arm in Ned's chair. It's like, I'm not going to say the fucking phrase.
Yeah,
like
and just it doesn't do it. None of his things do anything. He's just playing with the busy board. It's real cute, and I love Brock being like, I remember that fucking thing. It's so good.
I was inconsolable when this happened when I was first watching this, Gary. I was just like,
big smile on my face. Like, it is great. Ventronic tries to grab the tower to slow it down, misses at first, and then gets it. There. The Monarch squeezes the toy and his arm detaches and flies down. This is going to be important.
Yes.
There. Yeah. Hunter says, you know what? Let's give him a chance. Let's not shoot down the tower. They use the hover quarters and grapple guns to try to help slow it down.
Yes.
And together, very poetically, they land it right where the Venture compound used to be.
Yes, it lands fully intact right where the main building was, behind the Rusty and Jonah statue. Right.
Yep.
The blood vessel pulls up, and then the clown head that detached that has the mark in it falls and then lands. It dings against the statue, and Malcolm and the Monarch falls out.
Yeah.
And right in time and right in the place for the statue to fall over straight onto him.
With Jonas Venture puncturing him with his pointer finger.
Yes.
Pointing him. 21 calls for a doctor. They're looking at it. Everyone's horrified. There's a serious injury.
Yeah.
He asks what Hank and Dean are doing there.
Dean says, if we were home right now, home wouldn't be.
Great line. Great line. They all lift the statue off and notice that it actually punctured clean through the monarch.
Yeah, straight through his liver. Yeah.
Yep, through his liver. Dr. Orpheus is like, I can get a liver. Warps away to get a liver from one of Monarch's other dimensional selves. I would also have watched an episode that was that.
Yep. Dr. Orpheus, liver hunter.
Yeah, going through the multiverse, searching for livers. I love it.
While he's away, we get resolution on the vampire plotline.
Yeah.
Dean comes clean, begs Jefferson, hey, don't kill me, please, and reveals his bite. And Jefferson's like, wait a minute, no, you just got nicked by my necklace, by my fang necklace when I tackled you. And this is when he says, always got to make it about you.
Yeah, really good. Good meta. Category. Put Dean a little bit in his place. As much as I love my little Jimmy Dean sausage. Orpheus reemerges with a liver, but the time shift has caused it to invert.
Yeah,
it's super gross.
It's this inside out liver that's just all blood vessel. Yeah.
It's disgusting. Yeah. It's also huge. It's too wide for Monarch's torso.
Oh man, but livers are so big anyway.
No, livers are. I know livers are big, but this wouldn't fit in his torso.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the size of like a beach ball. Ben speeds up in the van, saying he can help him. I'm really glad they established Ben still being there. Yes. They originally just planned to have this be his first appearance, which is ludicrous.
Yeah, you can use Ben. You've got a Ben. It's great.
Incredible commentary moment coming up. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch and Debbie are in the Watch and Ward command center, erasing records that would incriminate them. The idea is Debbie gets a clean slate and can join the Peril Partnership.
Right.
Debbie picks up a drink, and Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch says, don't drink from that. When guys start getting comfortable somewhere, they always start peeing in bottles. And then on the commentary, Doc Hammer's like, oh, this was the Astro Base. And I'm like, okay, fair. And he's like, how many times I drank my own piss? And then Jackson's like, those
were the days, right?
Those are the days. He's like, no, it's happened recently.
Yeah. How recently do you think I've done this?
Yeah. And then Jackson says, what? And he goes, well, I was a paraplegic, dude. I wasn't. And then they drop that whole thing in the middle of the first, it's the first reveal of it in the commentary. Like I knew before this, but incredible moment. Holy shit.
But he also says, I didn't pee in the thing that I got to pee in.
Yes.
He still used a bottle.
Yeah. He didn't use that weird little plastic. Like nothing is shaped like that. That weird urine collector thing.
Yeah.
But just multiple times drinking from it is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like if I have pissed in a bottle. Before?
Only human. Yeah.
Only human. I've done it in cars. I've done it when it's convenient to go to the bathroom. I have done it when a bathroom is being showered or shit in and I have to pee worse than anything.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. Can't always go outside. Yeah.
Here's the thing though. When I reach for a beverage, I know what's in it.
You never picked up what you thought was a glass of water and it was like a glass of orange juice and it shocked you?
No.
Okay.
I know what's in a beverage.
Okay.
Using my senses. I either use my eyes or my nose.
You're just reaching over. I don't know. I have had that happen. I am often rocking the three bev lifestyle. I've got my water bottle here. I have
your urine bottle and your orange juice bottle.
My piss bucket and my shit bucket. I've got water. I have a pop and then I have a coffee cup.
Okay.
Okay. And there's a chance I could reach for one and get something I don't want, which is why I don't keep pee in bottles.
It's a great reason not to keep pee in bottles. I don't drink a wide variety of beverages, to be fair. Like I basically just drink coffee and water.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively.
Now, I have accidentally drank out of a dip spit bottle.
So when I was young, my mom and dad would put cigarettes out in Coke bottles, and I've accidentally drank out of those.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's a sense memory I have kept from when I'm 6. Like I have a very specific, every moment of I remember.
Oh yeah,
so traumatic. But it stopped me from doing that. Of just being like, oh, an open container with drink that's just out is probably not hazard for me.
Yeah.
It's this was here before I got here. I don't know its provenance.
Yeah.
I don't need to drink it. Whereas Doc's is here fucking doing the yellow sip. Nonstop.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like, I just like, and then I love this whiplash of hearing this in the commentary being like, oh man, that's fucking gross. And then being like, yeah, man, I was paraplegic. I would, and he's like, what? Like, oh, that's okay. Then I can't be mad at you for drinking your own piss, but
it's like, I'm going to drop it.
Judoed me.
Yeah. That just sounds like two horrible things that happened. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It absolutely threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
But it is well observed. A bunch of guys get comfortable. They do start pissing and stuff.
They do. Yeah. So the computer chimes. All this time they've been waiting for the DNA results to process, and they print out, and we get a little watch and ward. They're invisible while all this is happening. Dr. Miss the Monarch and Mantilla, and the watch and ward look in, and they see the printout just kind of like floating around apparently, and they say, it's the Phantom of the Guild. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
They get the charts, the DNA charts. They're identical. Done. We go out to Ben's house. Rusty is doing a blood transfusion to the Monarch.
Yes.
He survived the operation, giving him blood. I love this. My dad, what a dick. I mean, our dad.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah. And Ben comes out and tells the truth about Rusty and the Monarch. He knows this. He's the one who broke the news to Dean, and saying like, hey, they're not brothers. No, somebody's like, oh, well, how, like, just what luck, his brother happened to be here. He says, oh, they aren't brothers. They're the same guy. Yeah. They're both clones of the original Rusty.
Yeah. This could have been, anyone could have walked over to his house and solved all of the major mysteries of the show. It was on their property.
Yeah.
The reason they don't look exactly the same, is the Monarch has 2% baboon DNA in order to combat male pattern baldness. I warned him not to put that monkey shit in there. I love it.
Yeah.
Because it made him more aggressive.
Yeah. So, just like it was just a bad experiment. So they pawned R22, so the 22nd Rusty clone, off onto that Morpho couple, right? They couldn't have a kid, and it's just Rusty's taking it in stride. Like, hey, where are the boys? The Monarch is despondent.
Yeah.
This person he hates with all his being, he finds out like, oh, he's identical to him.
It's you.
Yeah. But of course not. There's just because you have the same DNA, not the same person. Yeah.
If you've ever met identical twins, they can be very different. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch comes in, still invisible, to talk to the Monarch, and he's very upset about this. And she says, you're not Dr. Venture. I wouldn't have fallen in love with him. And also this is awesome. Yeah. You're a Greek myth. You're pitted in an eternal battle against the worst aspects of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking badass. And it's, unprecedented in the guild.
Yeah.
This slays in terms of the lifestyle we've chosen, the game we're all playing.
Yeah. And, she's got that rusty dust.
Yeah, exactly. She gets that little bit of magic rusty dust. Yeah. I really like this bit here. Just missed it up a lot at the end of this when I was watching it, just, saying goodbye to these characters and stuff. Yeah. I love this. Hank is out front, kind of moping, and Ben comes out and says, hey, I thought you should have this. It's your grandpa's old watch.
Yeah.
Venture Blue dial here, 2 time zones. You know what those are? Those are complications, what they're called. That's what makes a watch special. The more complications, the more valuable.
Yeah. And the inscription on the back has, and it's in Latin. It says, choose your family.
Yes.
And kind of gives, just gives something that is true, but also is a good, it's a good send off. It's a good, good wrap up. Choose your family, and remember that complications make it special. Right.
Yeah. It's coming from Jonas Sr., who is a monster, but also did do this. He surrounded himself with a crew of people. We don't know very much about, great grandpa of this, but he also did this thing. This is a Venture family thing.
Yes.
You make a crew. Rusty did it. He's got Billy and Pete, Dr. Orpheus and stuff, and the boys will do it. They get their Dermot, they get their Triana, they're getting their smaller crew and stuff. They're making families, for themselves. And this feels very much like this final scene when it shows them in the, all lounging in this living room talking, feels very much like a family. It feels like Thanksgiving, like after food.
Yeah. After food, before the game. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Dean asks Rusty who his mom is, and Rusty's like, all you need to know is that the person who gave birth to you loves you very much.
Yeah.
Great little line here. It has to be undercut, of course. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch pulls down his pants and we get to see his dong.
Mm-hmm. Not the first time.
No, but I mean, it's every time is a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so this moment of triumph, out comes the monarch, who is clinging to his IV pole. He has taken his blood and drawn his logo on the bandages around his abdomen, and he's just barely able to get out. Feel the sting of the mighty monarch.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the title line. Mark my words, I will get you, Dr. Venture. You can't hide from the villainous wrath of your better self. I am radiant and vitalized, as he is the weakest he's ever been. I am radiant and vitalized by the blood of the ferocious baboon. Now somebody call me an Uber.
I really like that ended up tying in as well. The title ended up tying in as well as it did, because if you remember season 7, these titles made no fucking sense.
Right.
They're all like that's where they started doing the big bang theory bullshit.
The Enamorata protocol or whatever.
Got nonsense. I love this. Rusty's been like, Brock, you could do something about that. And he's like, yeah. I think I'm just going to call him an Uber. There, and 21, calls him pwned.
Yes.
At this point, starting where we began, like it can continue.
Yeah.
In our imaginations and what have you. This conflict, all these questions are answered. It has no real dramatic reason to continue, but it can. Yeah. It's not ending with a finality of everyone dying or anything stupid like that.
Right. Yeah. It's just, hey, there's a new status quo here. There's a new status quo, but it's a sustainable status quo. Everybody's kind of set in this direction, right?
Yes.
Just the boys are on the path to reconciling. The family's together. Yeah.
And it's got complications, but it's they all love each other.
Yeah.
We get a post-credit scene here.
It's the mommy bomb, baby.
Yeah, the mommy bomb. Rusty in the 80s in his lab, he's designing this toddler variant of the hover bike with a giraffe. That's why it's got those weird shapes. It had like a little cartoon giraffe on it. Helper is chirping a little lullaby while rocking a cradle. Rusty's watch beeps. He says it's time to wake the boys. He turns around. He's wearing an artificial womb.
Yeah, he's got a Death Stranding like baby pod strapped to the front of him. Yeah. And he looks down and says, "Are you ready to meet the Venture Brothers?" And we see the boys' fetuses floating there, and they reach out and they do the Go Team Venture sign.
Yeah, that's the last thing you see.
Yeah,
it's could be saccharine. Again, this is doing a lot of things that I don't like when they're not phenomenally well earned.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what this is. It's phenomenally well earned. I have such a deep investment in the show. The show went on for so long. A lot of people put their lives into it. So much of Jack and Jackson and Doc are in this, obviously. You can get away with this kind of sentimentality. What it reminds me of is the wink at the end of Blood and Wine.
Oh, yeah.
In The Witcher, which is another similar moment that would make me roll my eyes if it wasn't earned. And I'm exceedingly sensitive to this kind of bullshit when it's not earned.
Yes.
Like, think about the waff on Arya of Sorrow when we're going to go fight Dracula. And it's like, we can only do this because of the people we met along the way. I hope I have the support of all my friends, the merchant and what's her name, like the various people you ran into and said 2 words to.
Yeah.
This isn't that. We've spent so long with these characters. They have so much development and so much depth that we get to be a little sentimental about them.
Yeah. And also it's a good answer. Like, it fits in. Like, the boys are weird. The situation is weird around everything. Like, there is a technical truth and an actual truth around this, which is like, okay, their mother is Debbie, right? She contributed the genetic material. That was the thing that she didn't have any plans to use. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It was the eggs.
Pussy to science.
Yes. Yeah. Just like Rusty wouldn't have like consummated with anybody and had a kid and he couldn't maintain the relationship long enough to have the mother stick around and have the kids end up with him. Right.
Yeah.
Just not the person that he is. They were conceived in super science as an experiment. Yeah. Right. It just like this issue circles around and makes sense. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Like it is a perfect ending for it. And then you get to all this beautiful little the Venture Brothers. Well, it starts off, it's about Hank and Dean. And then at the end of the season, we're like, oh shit. Rusty has a brother. It's the Venture Brothers. It's JJ and Rusty. And then now we're at the end. It's like, oh shit. It's the Venture Brothers. It's the Monarch and Dr. Venture. It's all Venture Brothers all the way down.
Yeah.
as a thing. It's very beautiful. It doesn't, there's a real special gift that comes with a long running series getting a chance to wrap up.
Yeah.
Like this, I talk about it all the time, but the Deadwood movie made me feel the same way.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, they fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
God, good for them.
Yeah. It was a high wire act. Even just getting to this point, you had one chance to do a very improbable thing. You could have disappointed me. I'm so invested in this, but you landed it. That is that is special. That is a miracle. That is rare. Yeah.
Very special. I just, it's heartening, very, very heartening.
Yeah.
Love it. It's the thing where, I would obviously take more Venture Brothers, but it's because I want to see these weird fucking situations, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to see, Billy and Colonel Gentleman team up and do John Wick shit.
Misha.
I want, that's why I want that. It's not because I feel like it has dramatic things left unhanging. The possible exception of Dr. Mrs. the Monarch still being with the Monarch.
Yeah.
The Monarch having his explanation for being, having this aggressive DNA, and being tied into the self-hatred thing really works for me. I still don't really understand why she stays with him.
Yeah.
That's just going to be a difference in brains though. The guys who made it get it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's literally the only thing that, to me, that is dramatically unsatisfying. Like I might have wanted to see, they had a scene originally in this where it would have been like Wide Whale and St. Cloud. Tell me that wouldn't have been fun to see.
Yeah.
Of course it would have, but it's not unnecessary.
Yeah. Would love to get more Serena. Love to see how that sorts out.
You talked about Sally. What the fuck happened to Sally?
Yeah.
I'd love to know. But
it's such a big world with so many movers and shakers and so much, potential incident. And I forget if this was from the Hodgman and Friends or if it was from the Q&A commentary. But them talking about like, we're not around each other. We live on opposite coasts, right?
Yeah.
Jackson and Doc, they still talk, they still, do all this. And when they're talking, like they're talking in the characters' voices and they're pitching stories and talking about like, what would Rusty be doing, with this or anything there. Like it is still a part of the way they communicate because it's the way they've communicated for so long. Right. Yeah. And just, the fact that they're doing it and the fact that I, can think about this too. Like, I don't know, like just this is wrapped up and concluded, but like it still does belong to all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening and thank you for your patience.
Yes.
While we waited for this to come out and then also waited for the strike to end.
Yeah. It was worth the wait.
Yeah, I think so. Very satisfied with this. I will watch this again. It belongs in any kind of series rewatch, which I'll also definitely do.
Oh, yeah.
In my life, I have more watches of the Venture Brothers in me, which is rare for once we cover something like this.
Yeah, no.
In a show, I'm usually like, okay, I've said goodbye to it. We've done this deep dive. I just rewatched the Venture Brothers not too long ago.
Yeah,
with my wife. Like it is an all timer. One of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah. If you're just an Orb listener, there's new stuff happening on the network. We did start up Best Quality Vacuum, talking about Breaking Bad, kind of took the show's place. That is returning as well. It's back, baby. So go and check that out if you had been waiting or hesitating around it. Also, a new show in the time since Orb ended its regular run. We are going to be starting up around this time here shortly, Real Lich Hours, which is a premium show talking about Baldur's Gate 3, the computer RPG that has taken the world by storm. And yeah, we'd love to have you over there to listen to that.
Yeah, there's a vampire in it that's so hot and horny that it made CNN. I also get to debut my character, Country Astarion, which I've been cracking live up with.
And you can hear me be uncharacteristically and unironically horny for Karlach. So there we go.
Best girl. Yeah, like uncharacteristically, a big demon muscle mommy wants to like fucking carry me into bed like a baby. Who am I to argue?
Yeah, no.
I have no power. I mean, that's even though I did want to argue, I can't. Oh no! It's like when the cats turn over on their back and just go, "Oh, I hope nobody plays with me. I hope nobody gets my belly."
Yeah. Geez. Yeah. So, lots of lots of cool stuff happening. It is sad to say goodbye to this, but there is, we're still around just because Venture Brothers.
Yeah, we didn't die.
Yeah.
And again, who knows what the future brings?
Yep.
What happens if somehow this gets turned into something else? They revitalize or something. We might be back.
Yeah. If there's a season 8 on Hulu or something like that, then we'll talk.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't do the Arrested Development thing.
Hopefully,
let's do it, but let's just make it absolute dog shit. I don't think they'll do that.
No.
So thanks everybody. We appreciate you. Until next time, go Team Venture.
Go Team Venture.